Hi there. Here we are, chapter 64. When we left Odd, he had just woken up in the hospital. Stormy had come to visit him, a number of other people. Um, anyway, that's where we left it. Chapter 64. Friday morning, just one day after Chief Porter escaped the ICU, the doctor issued orders for me to be transferred to a private room. They gave me one of their swanky accommodations decorated like a hotel suite, the same one in which they had let me take a shower when I'd been sitting vigil for the chief. When I expressed concern about the cost and reminded them that I was a fry cook, the director of County General personally assured me that they would excuse all charges in excess of what the insurance company would be willing to pay. This hero thing disturbed me, and I didn't want to use it to get any special treatment. Nevertheless, I graciously accepted their generosity because, while Stormy could only visit me in an ordinary hospital room, she could actually move right in here and be with me 24 hours a day. The police department posted a guard to the corridor outside my room. No one posed any threat to me. The purpose was to keep the news media at bay. Events at the Green Moon Mall had, I was told, made headlines worldwide. I didn't want to see a newspaper. I refused to turn on the TV. Reliving it in nightmares was enough. Too much. Under the circumstances, the Saturday wedding finally proved to be impractical. Reporters knew of our plans and would be all over the courthouse. Butterfly. That and other problems proved insurmountable, and we postponed for a month. Friday and Saturday, friends poured in with flowers and gifts. How I loved seeing Terry Stambaugh, my mentor, my lifeline when I'd been 16 and determined to live on my own. Without her, I would have had no job and nowhere to go. Viola Peabody came without her daughters, insisting that they would have been motherless if not for me. The next day she returned with the girls. As it turned out, Nicolina's love of pink had to do with her enthusiasm for Burke Bailey's ice cream. Stormy's uniform had always enchanted her. Little Ozzie visited without Terrible Chester. When I teased him about the yellow pants and the Hawaiian shirt that he'd worn to the ICU, he denied that he would ever costume himself in that fashion because such flamboyant togs would inevitably make him look even bigger than he was. He did, he said, have some vanity. As it turned out, Stormy had made up this colorful story to give me a smile in the ICU when I badly needed one. My father brought Brittany with him, full of plans to represent my story for books, movies, television, and product placements. I sent him away unsatisfied. My mother did not visit. Rosalia Sanchez, Bertie Orbick, Helen Archis, Polk Barnett, Seamus Corcabolo, Lizette Raines, and the Takuta family, so many others. From all these friends, I could not escape learning some of the statistics that I preferred not to know. 41 people at the mall had been wounded. 19 had died. Everyone said it was a miracle that only 19 perished. What was wrong with our world when 19 dead can seem like a kind of miracle? Local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies had studied the quantity of plastic explosives in the truck and estimated that it would have brought down the entire department store plus a not insignificant portion of the south side of the mall. Estimates are that between 500 and 1,000 would have been killed if that bomb had detonated. Bern Eccles had been stopped before he killed more than the 3 security guards, but he'd been carrying enough ammunition to cut down scores of shoppers. At night, in my hotel-style hospital room, Stormy stretched out on the bed and held my hand. When I woke from nightmares, she pulled me against her, cradled me in her arms while I wept. She whispered reassurances to me. She gave me hope. Sunday afternoon, Carla brought the chief in a wheelchair. He understood perfectly well that I would never want to talk to the media, let alone entertain offers for books, movies, and television miniseries. He had thought of many ways to foil them. He is a great man, the chief, even if he did break that Barney the dinosaur chair. Although Bern Eccles refused interrogation, the investigation into the conspiracy had proceeded rapidly, thanks to the fact that a man named Kevin Gossett, having been run down by a forklift, was talking his hateful head off. Gossett, Eccles, and Warner had been bent a long time. At the age of 14, they developed an they had developed an interest in Satanism. Maybe it was a game for a while. Quickly, it grew serious. On a mutual dare, they killed for the first time when they were 15. They enjoyed it, and Satanism justified it. Gossett called it just another way of believing. When they were 16, they pledged to their God that they would go into law enforcement because it would give them excellent cover, and because one of the requirements of a devout Satanist is to undermine the trusted institutions of society whenever possible. Eccles and Varner eventually became cops, but Gossett became a school teacher. Corrupting the young was important work too. The three childhood pals had met Bob Robertson 16 months previously through a satanic cult from which they cautiously sought out others with their interests. The cult had proved to be a gaggle of wannabes playing at goth games, but Robertson had interested them because of his mother's wealth. Their first intention had been to kill him and his mother for whatever valuables might be in their house. But when they discovered that Robertson was eager to bankroll what he called nasty news, they formed a partnership with him. They murdered his mother, made it appear that she'd died and been all but entirely consumed in an accidental fire, and gave Robertson her ears as a souvenir. Indeed, the contents of the Rubbermaid containers in Robertson's freezer had come from the collections of Eccles, Varner, and Gossett. Robertson himself had never had the guts to waste anyone, but because of his generosity, they wanted to make him feel like a genuine part of their family. With Robertson's money behind them, they were full of big plans. Gossett didn't recall who first proposed targeting a town and turning it into hell on earth, with a series of well-planned horrors, with the cold intention of ultimately destroying it entirely. They checked out numerous communities and decided that Pico Mundo was ideal. Neither too large to be beyond ruination, nor too small to be uninteresting. Excuse me 1 second. All right, sorry, back. Green Moon Mall was their first target. They intended to murder the chief and parlay the mall disaster, and a list of other complex and Machiavellian moves, into firm control of the police department. Thereafter, the steady destruction of the town would be their sport and their form of worship. Bob Robertson moved into Camp's End because the neighborhood offered him a low profile. Besides, he wanted to manage his money wisely, to ensure that he could buy as much fun as possible. By the time Chief Porter got around to telling me and Stormy how he was going to protect me and help me to keep the secret of my sixth sense, his face had grown haggard, and I imagine I looked worse. Through Carla, I'd gotten word to him about Robertson's body out there at the Church of the Whispering Comet, so he'd been able to work that bizarre detail into his cover story. He'd always done well by me in the past, but this Porter-spun narrative left me in stunned admiration. Stormy said it was a work of genius. Clearly, the chief had not been spending all his time recuperating. All right, that was chapter 64. See you next time for chapter 65.